When the great Dana Perino has joined us on the couch this morning.
Exactly. Good news and bad news.
Thank you. That was an improvement.
It's really nice to see you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
We dragooned Dana into this. So the first issue we want to get to this morning is Ferguson, Missouri. So the feds have decided not to charge the police officer at the center of this, Darren Wilson, the one who killed Michael Brown last year, with any kind of federal crime. But that does not mean that they are done with Ferguson. Eric Holder says the feds are considering dismantling the police department there. Watch this.
Does that include dismantling the police force?
If that's what's necessary, we're prepared to do that.
Federal takeover of local law enforcement, is that what's needed to fix Ferguson and other police departments across the country?
Well, I haven't seen the report. Perhaps the Attorney General of the United States thinks that that kind of a drastic measure is necessary. There clearly was some problems. I mean, you wouldn't have had the reaction after the Michael Brown situation if there hadn't been something there. So I think the Justice Department goes in, they're looking for something, but I don't think it was too hard for them to find something that needed to be fixed. But you might be able to say that about many different police forces. But dismantling it, taking away the local police officers and replacing them with federal police officers sounds like a very drastic move, and I don't actually think it would help solve any of the problems. But maybe the Attorney General knows more than I do.
But isn't this just another chapter in the same story of federal takeovers of things that people used to control themselves, or health care, education? Now the feds are requiring, I think, all police departments to go through sensitivity training and apply affirmative action standards. I mean, isn't there a power grab underway?
There isn't. There's also a failure to recognize what police departments are actually doing for most poor communities in America.
Right.
Police officers actually save more lives than anybody else. They help prevent crime. For example, just here in New York City, the police force, more than half of the people coming into the police force are not white, okay? They are joining the police force from all different cultures and ethnicities, and they are the ones that are out on the front lines. The other thing that they're doing, and what the administration fails to do and what government can't heal, is the family. Okay, so that is actually the root cause of it. Federal takeovers of all of America is not going to change the fact that we have a serious breakdown in the family, which is leading to a lot of the other problems.
And there are two parts to this report. One was that no federal civil rights charges will be brought against Officer Darren Wilson, but also the alleged targeting of minorities, or so-called low-hanging fruit, for things like traffic violations in an effort to bring in revenue. In other words, racism. Well, President Obama responded to this, and here's what he says.
I don't think that is typical of what happens across the country, but it's not an isolated incident. I think that there are circumstances in which trust between communities and law enforcement have broken down, and individuals or entire departments may not have the training or the accountability to make sure that they're protecting and serving all people and not just some.
How do you respond to those comments?
I think that sounds perfectly reasonable, and it sounds smart, and it sounds like he is, as the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States, he's saying there are some problems in the local communities that we would like the local communities to try to fix, and they have the Justice Department as a backstop. I actually thought that was quite reasonable.
The training, that's a term that jumped out at me. And
me too.
The implication is we need to come in there and tell you how to police your communities.
Well, I don't know if the president is prepared to back up those actions with providing resources. And I think that also that each community is very different. I mean, that's kind of the problem, right? So it's the federalization of what a local problem is. So the problems that are happening, that might be happening in Ferguson, aren't necessarily the ones that are happening in Stockton, California, right? So there are variations, and I think that if you can have federal backstop but more local control in education or in police forces, where all sorts of different aspects of American life.
And not all news is created equal. As you mentioned, different communities. California tends to be a hotbed of crazy news stories here on Fox and Friends. I see California and Florida very often, but this morning we've got a story out of California. Did you see this, Dana?
Yes.
UC Irvine students there are voting today. We're hoping the clearer heads will prevail. They're voting today to ban the American flag on campus because they say that it shows cultural insensitivity. It's not inclusive enough when you have the flag flying on campus. What do you make of this?
Yesterday on the 5, we did a story about a school in California, UCLA, that basically was so bigoted toward a Jewish student and asking her she wanted to join a board, and she had to go through a process and be approved by the rest of the board members, and they actually asked her Do you think that you could be unbiased, given that you're Jewish?
Oh, wow.
I mean, and this is what I don't understand on campus is where is this coming from?
Well, I think I know.
Okay.
I know, see it in my own children's education. The curriculum is basically, history anyway, a litany of American sins.
Before you get to college?
Well, absolutely before you. So if you tell kids throughout their entire career in school, America's terrible, why should you be surprised when they hate the flag?
I'm worried about the future. Your previous guest, Catherine, from National Review, when she said they are our future. We will be living under their leadership. I don't see how do they change their minds in the next 3 or 4 years.
Well, they can't write, that's for certain.
Yeah, you want to read this? Because this is what Tucker's referring to. We'll put this up on the screen. This is the statement from the school, the University of California. This is the resolution. The American flag has been flown in instances of colonialism and imperialism. Flags not only serve as symbols of patriotism or weapons for nationalism, but also construct cultural mythologies and narratives that in turn charge nationalistic sentiments. Dana, if you were at the podium as White House press secretary and you spoke like that, would reporters look at you quizzically?
Wait, when was the last time you constructed a cultural mythology?
I don't know, but I was just thinking, what if you went back to the school and said, okay, then, you know what, no flags are allowed. So the rainbow flag, not allowed. It's offensive to some people, so therefore we will have no flags ever. I mean, what would they do? They'd absolutely freak out. You would never be able to do that on campus today.
Edward
And I'm not suggesting it either. I'm just saying that it's absurd.
Well, Edward on Facebook says, I stand with the flag. I don't understand how anyone would want to ban their own country's flag. That's unpatriotic. In
a word, Tony writes, if they wish to remove the flag, then remove all state and federal funding from the school at all levels. If you can't support the flag, you must not get the freedom she stands for.
Kim on Facebook writes, send them somewhere else for a little while without the freedoms that our flag represent, and I guarantee they will come back wanting to fly it on their own flagpole in their front yard.
Yeah, next we're going to be banning English.
Yeah, take a semester abroad in Burkina Faso. Tell me what you learned.
Yeah, good point. All right, well, Dana's going to be sticking around for this next story. It was a rough week for Hillary Clinton and the State Department, and it may have just gotten even worse, thanks to spokesperson Marie Harf. What she just said that's raising even more eyebrows.